Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, most merciful. This is Mijan sir, your English teacher. Welcome you all to my online English class arranged by Lalmonihat Government High School. Dear students, today's lecture is especially designed from grammar section of English second paper for the students of class 10. But I hope students of both lower and upper grade can be benefited from this lecture. Dear students, you might have heard the name of Napoleon Bonaparte. He said, "Give me an educated mother and I will give you an educated nation." We can retell or reproduce this sentence in other pattern with the same message as, "If you give me an educated mother, I will give you an educated nation." With the same message, also we can say, "In case of your giving me an educated mother, I will give you an educated nation." Dear students, I have retold Napoleon's speech in several patterns with the same message or meaning. Now, can you guess which topic I am going to talk about? Yes, I am going to talk about sentence pattern. So, our today's discussable topic is sentence pattern. Sentence pattern. Before getting started with sentence pattern, let's look at the sentences. Sentence 1. The boat sinking the passengers swam ashore. Sentence 2. When the boat sank, the passengers swam ashore. Sentence 3. The boat sank and the passengers swam ashore. Now, look at the sentences. All the sentences are pregnant with the same message or meaning, but they have occurred in three patterns or three forms. So, according to patterns, all sentences are classified into three groups: simple, complex, and compound. Other forms are also possible, but if we analyze and go deep into the patterns, we will get these three forms: simple, complex, and compound. Look at the first sentence. In this sentence, there is only one subject along with a finite verb, and there is no use of conjunction in this sentence. So, this type of sentence is called a simple sentence. This is a simple sentence. Simple sentence. Now, look at the second sentence. In this sentence, there is a principal clause along with a subordinate clause. The principal clause and the subordinate clause are connected together by a conjunction called subordinating conjunction. This type of sentence is called a complex sentence. This is a complex sentence. Complex sentence. Now the question comes, what is a principal clause and what is a subordinate clause? A principal clause is a clause which can make complete sense by itself without the help of other clause. But a subordinate clause cannot make complete sense by itself without the help of principal clause. To make complete sense, a principal clause has to depend on the subordinate. A subordinate clause has to depend on the principal clause. Now, look at the third sentence. In this sentence, there are two clauses. These clauses sound like principal clauses. Actually, these clauses are not principal clause because a principal clause is possible only when there is a subordinate clause. As there is no subordinate clause in this sentence, we cannot call these clauses principal clauses. These are coordinate clauses because these clauses have participated to coordinate or to make up a long sentence by the use of a coordinating conjunction. This type of sentence is called compound sentence. So this is a compound sentence. Compound sentence. Now we are going to see the characteristics of simple, complex and compound sentence individually. Look at the simple sentence. A simple sentence looks small in size. A simple sentence sounds easy. A simple sentence has only one subject. A simple sentence has only one finite verb. A simple sentence has no conjunction. A simple sentence has sometimes some phrases like this. These are the characteristics of a simple sentence. Now, look at the complex sentence. A complex sentence looks longer or larger in size. It sounds difficult. It has one principal clause. It has at least one subordinate clause. The principal clause and the subordinate clause are connected together by a conjunction called subordinating conjunction like who is, that, what, till, until, since, as, because, though, although, before, after, when, while, as soon as if, as though, lest, etc. These are the characteristics of complex sentence. Now, look at the compound sentence. A compound sentence also looks longer in size. It also sounds difficult. It has two or more coordinate clauses. The coordinate clauses are connected together by a conjunction called coordinating conjunction like and, but, or, either, or, neither, nor, not only but also, therefore, so, yet, etc. These are the characteristics of a compound sentence. Now we are going to learn how to interchange simple, complex and compound sentence. Dear students, we follow many techniques for making simple, complex and compound sentences. I am going to show you a few of them. Technique 1. When two actions executed by the same agent or doer occur one after another, or one is followed by another, or one is preceded by another, the preceding action, the action that takes place earlier, is called a preceding action. The preceding action becomes a participle phrase in simple sentence, and this participle phrase will become a subordinate clause introduced by a subordinating conjunction like since, as, because, before, after, etc. in complex sentence. And in compound sentence, these two actions will become two coordinate clauses connected by a conjunction that is and. Look at the example. Hearing the sad news, she burst into tears. This is simple. Let's make it complex. When she heard the sad news, she burst into tears. Let's make it compound. She heard the sad news and burst into tears. Now, carefully look at the sentences. All the sentences have two actions executed by the same agent. The preceding action is to hear the sad news, and the following action is to burst into tears. So, here the preceding action to hear the sad news has become a participle phrase in simple sentence. Here we have used present participle. We can also use perfect participle. Present participle is verb with ing, functions like an adjective, and perfect participle is having plus verb past participle form, functions like an adjective. In simple sentence, the preceding action has become a participle phrase, and this participle phrase has become a subordinate clause in complex sentence. This subordinate clause is introduced by when, and these two actions have become two coordinate clauses connected by and. Okay, following this technique, we can make many more simple, complex and compound sentences. For example, jumping into a cab, she cried gaily. This is simple. Let's make it complex. When she jumped into a cab, she cried gaily. Let's make it compound. She jumped into a cab and cried gaily. Similarly, coming to the boy, the bear smelled him. This is simple. Let's make it complex. When the bear came to the boy, it smelled him. Let's make it compound. The bear came to the boy and smelled him. Similarly, standing beside the window, she looked out. This is simple. Let's make it complex. When she stood beside the window, she looked out. Let's make it compound. She stood beside the window and looked out. Similarly, breaking the door, the policeman entered the room. This is simple. Let's make it complex. When the policeman broke the door, they entered the room. Let's make it compound. The policeman broke the door and entered the room. Dear students, you can use before or after clause in place of when clause. But be careful about the use of the tense because before is preceded by and after is followed by past perfect tense. That means before and after past perfect tense will be used. For example, reading the letter, she tore it off. This is simple. Let's make it compound. She tore the letter off after she had read it. Let's make it compound. She read the letter and tore it off. I think you have understood this technique. Now we are moving on to technique 2. Technique 2 is when two actions executed by two different agents or doer occur one after another, or one is followed by another, or one is preceded by another, the preceding action will become an absolute phrase in simple sentence, and this absolute phrase will become a subordinate clause in complex sentence, which will be introduced by since, as, because, before, after, if, when, etc. in complex sentence, and in compound sentence these two actions will become two coordinate clauses connected by and. Look at the example. The plane landing, the passengers got down. This is simple. Let's make it complex. When the plane landed, the passengers got down. Let's make it compound. The plane landed and the passengers got down. Now look at the sentences. All the sentences have two actions. Executed by two different agents or dual. Here one action executed by the plane is to land, and the another action executed by the passengers is to get down. So here the preceding action is to land. So this action has become an absolute phrase in simple sentence. Students, the term absolute phrase may sound difficult to you. Actually, this is not so, because look at the sentences. All the things of the clause will remain unchanged in the absolute phrase. Just the finite verb will become a non-finite, like participle. Here we have used present participle. This type of phrase is called an absolute phrase. And look at the noun. This noun or noun equivalent used in the absolute phrase is called a nominative absolute. Now, from the example sentence, you can easily define an absolute phrase. An absolute phrase is a noun or a noun equivalent which is attached to the main sentence, by the use of a non-finite verb like participle is called an absolute phrase. I think you have understood it. And in complex sentence, this absolute phrase has become a subordinate clause introduced by when. And in compound sentence, these two actions have become two coordinate clauses connected by and. Following this technique, you can make many more simple, complex and compound sentences. For example, democracy being a popular form of government, every people is following it. Here, every people stands for every nation. Let's make this is simple. Let's make it complex. As democracy is a popular form of government, every people is following it. Let's make it compound. Democracy is a popular form of government, and so every people is following it. Similarly, the marriage ceremony being over, the guests were going to the feast. This is simple. Let's make it complex. When the marriage ceremony was over, the guests were going to the feast. Let's make it compound. The marriage ceremony was over and the guests were going to the feast. Similarly, the weather being rough, the sailors could not set sail. This is simple. Let's make it complex. As the weather was rough, the sailors could not set sail. Let's make it compound. The weather was rough and so the sailors could not set sail. Similarly, the sun having set, having plus past participle. This is a participle phrase. The sun having set, we reached home. This is simple. Let's make it complex. We reached home after the sun had set. Let's make it compound. The sun set and we reached home. Similarly, death being inevitable, we should take preparation for it. This is simple. Let's make it complex. As death is inevitable, we should take preparation for it. Let's make it compound. Death is inevitable and so we should take preparation for it. Similarly, God willing, we shall meet again. This is simple sentence. Let's make it complex. If God wills, we shall meet again. Let's make it compound. God will and we shall meet again. Students, I think you have understood this technique. Now, we are going to review the key points we have learned so far. We learned that according to patterns, all sentences are classified into three groups: simple, complex and compound. A simple sentence is a sentence in which there is only one subject along with a finite verb and there is no use of conjunction. And a complex sentence is a sentence in which there is one principal clause depending on which there is a subordinate clause. And a compound sentence is a sentence in which there are two or more coordinate clauses connected by a coordinating conjunction. And we also learned two techniques of making simple, complex and compound sentence. Now I am going to give your homework. From your grammar book you will work out the exercise on sentence pattern. If you find any problem or difficulty, please do not forget to contact us online. Dear learners, that is all for today. May each and everything so far we have learned serve the greater interest of you. May you find the discussion useful, helpful and be able to improve your language skills. Many thanks for joining me. See you again inshallah. Allah Hafiz.